Hey guys, welcome back to AY Militaria. So, Swedish military surplus, something that a lot of us are familiar with, I'm sure. Many items like the Model 1939 Tunic, the Army mess kits, they're very well known and quite readily available on the surplus market. Now, today I'm going to be doing a video on something that is not quite as well known and not that readily available. The Model 1941 Swedish Home Guards tunic. I'll be taking a look at the one that I have, and I'll be going a bit into the history behind it. So without further ado, let's get into it. So when the Swedish Home Guard, also known as the Hemvärnet in Swedish, I'm sorry if I butchered that, when they were established in 1940, the members lacked a uniform. So initially, the Model 1940 uniform was introduced as a stopgap measure until a more suitable replacement could be found. This Model 1940 uniform simply consisted of a shirt and pants that were to be worn directly over civilian attires, with the Model 1940 Home Guard arm patch being worn on the left arm to denote their Home Guard status. The patch worn shows the symbol of the Swedish Home Guards, being 3 crowns over an H, which stands for Hemvärnet, the Swedish word for Home Guard. As the Model 1940 uniforms were made of cotton, they were quite susceptible to wear and were not really suitable for use in the field. But since they were a stopgap measure, in 1941, 1 year later, the first official uniform of the Swedish Home Guard was introduced, the Model 1941 uniform, which was supposed to replace the Model 1940, although it also remained in use by many members of the Home Guard. Now, the Model 1941 uniform consisted of the tunic, pants, the Model 1939 side cap, and officially the Model 21 helmet, the M21 helmet, which was being phased out at the time by the Swedish Army in favor of the M37. So in theory, that meant that large quantities of the older M21s were available for the Home Guards. In reality, though, there was a huge mixture of helmets that were issued, and they ranged from the M21 all the way through to the M37 and everything in between. Alright, so let's get back to the Model 1941 uniform. The tunic that you see here is made of a much tougher denim-like material. 2 additional pockets were added at the top, the 2 breast pockets, and the buttons were changed to larger metal buttons that are textured and have the Swedish crowns on them, which is a step up from the earlier 4-hole buttons of the Model 1940 uniform. These metal buttons are pretty much identical to what the Army had been using on their Model 1939 uniforms, so I guess it would make sense to standardize. The Model 1940 arm patch was still to be worn on the left arm, while non-commissioned officers and members wore their ranks on the end of their sleeves, just above the cuff, while officers wore their ranks on the shoulder straps. So here you can see the Model 1941 uniform being worn in World War II configuration, with the arm patch on the left arm, the ranks just above the cuff, while the 3 stripes here represents the rank of a sergeant or a platoon commander. And in World War II configuration, no further insignias should be present except for sometimes the long service badge that was to be worn above the right breast pocket, with bronze representing 3 years of service, silver representing 5, and gold representing 8. Alright, so let's take a closer look at the uniform itself. First, there is a single crown stamp that you notice right here. This suggests that this is actually an early production tunic. So the Model 1941 uniform was introduced in 1941 when the Swedish Army were still using these single crown stamps. And by 1942 they had switched to the more well-known 3 crown stamps, kind of like what you see here on these buttons here. So this would suggest that this is most likely a 1st or 2nd year production tunic, so 1941 or early 1942. In 1946, the Model 1941 uniform was revised, and changes were made to it. First of all, the removal of the Model 1941 arm patch. As you can see, this darker patch right here. This would be the original color of the uniform, while this is just faded over time from use. So this was removed in 1946, and you can still see the original stitching that was here, if it will focus. Alright, so that would be where the Model 1940 arm patch would have went. And so this was replaced by these Model 1946 Home Guard collar tabs, which still shows the Home Guard symbol, 3 crowns over an H. Secondly was the addition of the branch insignia above the right breast pocket. This would show which branch of the Home Guard the member belonged to. So the most common one will be the normal Home Guards, which would be this crown over the letter H. The color is all blue and gold. This is a less common variant, the Naval Home Guard, which would make sense when we take a look at the unit, which brings us to the third revision, the addition of unit insignias. So more commonly you would see these sewn directly onto the shoulder strap, but in this case this was sewn onto a strip of wool and then slipped over the shoulder strap here. So FO15, FO would be the Swedish word for, stands for the Swedish word for defense sector or defense area. I can't pronounce that. But yeah, let's take a closer look at the Defense Area 15. So Defense Area 15 corresponds to the Blekinge Defense Area, which is located within the county of Blekinge on the southern coast of Sweden. On a side note before I continue, the information that I have here have been translated from Swedish sources, a lot of the information, and the translations may not be fully accurate. So if you're more knowledgeable in this area than I am and you realize I've made a mistake, please feel free to leave a comment and correct me. So the Blekinge Defense Area was created in 1942 and was under the responsibility of the Swedish Navy, hence the naval branch of the Home Guard that you see on the insignia there. The Defense Area HQ was located at the Karlskrona garrison, where the Blekinge Coast Artillery Defense HQ was also located. The role of the Blekinge Defense Area and as well as the Blekinge Coast Artillery Defense were very similar, and they were closely related to each other, to the point that they were all under the same command during the war. So the headquarters were located in the port city of Karlskrona, like I just said, where the garrison is located, and also happens to be the capital of Blekinge County, and has been the home of the main Swedish naval port and naval base for over 300 years. Hence the importance of the Swedish Navy in that area. Based on the location of Defense Area 15, their main role was to protect the southern coast of Sweden and to prevent enemy assaults by sea. And this defense area operated until the end of 1946. On January 1st of 1947, the Blekinge Defense Area was merged with the Blekinge Coastal Artillery Defense, bringing an end to this defense area, which had protected the county of Blekinge for over 5 years. And at the same time, these Model 1941 uniforms were also near the end of their service life, as beginning in 1945, the Home Guard had begun to phase out the Model 41 uniforms in favor over the Model 1939 wool uniforms that the Swedish Army had been using. This process would take over 5 years to complete, but it had signaled the beginning of the end for this line of uniforms. Now, before we end, I do want to bring your attention to this tag located on the right hip pocket, on the inside of the uniform. It's basically a tag in Swedish that explains how to wash the uniform and things to watch out for to prevent the uniform from fading after being washed. So yeah, that's about it, and I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you guys next time.